Hi, Celeste.
Hi, how are you? Are you Jason?
Here, I think you're on mute.
Okay, wait a minute.
Are you able to hear me okay?
I can hear you.
You can see her.
Yeah, we can see you. Let me just see if something with my audio.
Yeah, I'm not muted. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
No, they're not on mute.
all right. I have the audio up here. Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely hear you. I'm not on mute. So.
Okay, not sure why I can't hear you. Hold on one second, and our audio's turned up. Are you
Okay.
off mute?
I'm off mute. I've got it up as high as it'll go.
Hey, what's up? What's going on? What's this? The RFQ meeting.
Yeah, I'm having trouble hearing her, so we got to figure out what's up here. So
Yeah. I can hear you, but you can't hear me. Mhm. Maybe I'll come out and come in again. Let's try that. Okay, can you hear me now? So now I
yeah,
can't hear you.
we can hear you. So
Okay,
just
good.
give us a minute or two here to get things going. So just stand by, okay?
Okay, very good.
Good afternoon.
Hello, we can hear you. So just we'll get started in a moment here, just so you both know.
Okay,
This is being recorded, and you can see it has transcription, but that's not very good always. So so just give us another 2 minutes here, and we'll get started.
okay, great.
All right, so we're at 3:35, so I'm going to go ahead and kick this off.
Okay,
My name's Jason Goodrick. I'm the interim executive director for the CPC, and I handle the business operations and the day-to-day operations of the staff here, which includes management of RFQs, RFPs, and contracts. With us also, you may not be able to see everyone, and I apologize, we don't have the best webcam option here. But with me is our legal counsel, Assistant Director of Law, Martin Belot. And then we
Hello.
also have Pete Van Leer, who's a commissioner representing our budget and grants committee. And one of our co-chairs, John Adams, is on the line here. So between the four of us, we should be able to answer any question that you have today. And if we can't, we will put our brains together and come up with an answer within a couple of business days of any question that's posed today that we can't answer. This meeting is being recorded and it'll be publicly posted, so people who can't attend will be able to see, in fairness, any questions that you ask so that they can also see the answer to that question. So I'll jump right into it. I'm not going to go through the whole RFQ. It's rather lengthy. Hopefully it's been out for a week. It's on our website, so you should have a copy of it. So I'm just going to go through the 7 things real quick here that any contractor would be responsible for this. Starting at the high level, before I do that, it's the Community Police Commission gets about $1.1 million in pass-through grantee money allocated to itself out of the city's general fund. That's what this RFQ is based off of. We found it to be extremely labor intensive and cumbersome for us, the small staff that we have, plus 13 commissioners, to go through that grant process. We did it on our own in the first year, which was 2023, and we found it to be a little bit intensive for us. So we decided to look for outside partners to help us get through the 2024 grant funding, which is this year, and then possibly an extension to the 2025 grant funding as well, if this works out, if this partnership works out. So that being said, any contractor who wants to apply for this RFQ for a chance to be a partner in our grant initiatives here, there's 7 pieces that would go along with that, and that is issuing to the grantees and the public the request for proposals of these grants. So that would be managed through the partner, scoring proposals and recommending awards. Now that would be in conjunction with commissioners, because under the law, we can't fully remove ourselves from this process. So any scoring committee or a scoring process that was developed would have to include the commission in some way. The number 3 component is administering contracts in cooperation with the city's law department. So contracts are, because it is taxpayer funded, the contracts are not as simple as you would see with a private grant organization like the Cleveland Foundation. They're rather lengthy contracts. I would say the average contract size is probably about 20 pages, somewhere in that area. So you would also probably be a party in that contract in some ways as we execute contracts, depending how many grantees there are. So part 4 is reconciling reimbursements and advances for grantees. So they would make their requests through you, and we'd be reconciling that as a group and keeping track of that. Monitoring the performance. These grants in the first year had a mid-year report that is a requirement, and also a final report. So those would be a requirement in addition to whatever other monitoring conditions you feel would be appropriate in your individual proposal. Reporting, that is again part of the monitoring is the 2-tier reports or whatever system you come up with in your proposal, and then maintaining records for auditing purposes. So it'd be taking the lead on keeping the grantee records, the payment records, and auditing of that. So any proposal that's submitted has to be in no later than 5 p.m. on June 17th. And the only thing that I would add to that is that please keep the proposal for how you would handle it separate from the money part of the proposal. So in the money part, it should match. Whatever your plan is, but we need to see how you what your cost breakdown for carrying out this proposal is in its own kind of separate piece to that. So don't mix it in with the into one proposal. Just break it into two parts: what you're going to do, and then what your cost is for doing that, so that we can score those easily. So with that being said, this is a question and answer session. So I will open it up. And why don't we, I'll give you both an opportunity here. I'll start with Celeste, and then I'll move over to you, Twyla. Is that how you say it? Okay.
Okay.
And that, since there's only two of you here, once you finish your questions, then we can kind of we can open it up for back and forth.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So how many grantees did you have in 2022 that you might be expecting that might be applicable?
Yeah. So in 2023, I think we had 35, John? 35 grantees awarded. Or I'm sorry, 26, but we had 80 applicants or something along those lines? Yeah, it was closer to 100 applicants. It doesn't mean that a program has to be designed along having that many disbursements. That would be kind of something in the proposal we'd be interested in hearing. Does anybody want to add to that?
I mean, I think that we are open to like larger grants this year. Is that what you're talking about? Something
Yeah,
like
so
that?
they asked, how many?
Yeah, we gave out a lot, and that's going to be a lot to manage, and there's going to be a little bit of overlap between the current grantees, and then we're doing this next round. So I think we want to look into potentially awarding like some larger grants, so we don't have like 50 grantees that we're trying to manage at one time.
In addition to that, I will say, I don't think it's in the RFQ, but any grantee that we award over $50,000 to, the cutoff is exactly 50,000. So it was $50,001. We would have to do legislation through city council, and council would also have to approve that grantee.
Mhm. So 50,000 is the right amount to shoot for. Nothing over that.
Yeah, and that's not meant to be a limiter. It's not. I mean, certainly we are capable of doing that, but that's just something you need to be aware of, is that it can add time to process a grant request when we have to do it via legislation in council. So.
And do you make any grants that is there a minimum amount for grants, like 20,000 or 15,000? Doesn't matter if it's up to 50,000.
Our first year we chose to cap it at 50,000, but it doesn't have to be capped at 50,000. So they can be bigger than that.
And one of the important things for a lot of the people on the commission and the community is that we're looking at grassroots groups. Like people, that's both a challenge and an opportunity. Groups that don't really get funding from elsewhere and that have ideas. They're trying to, it's not. And they have a fiscal sponsor, maybe they're not even a standalone nonprofit. So those are, I don't know how many of our grantees last year were that kind of, probably the majority, I would say, but pretty small groups.
You said the majority of them were smaller and needed fiscal? Is that what you said?
I don't know the numbers, but.
No, I think only a few had needed fiscal agents, but most of the grantees we had didn't have operating funds to do reimbursements of the grants after they spend. So they asked for specifics in their contract to have advances instead. So they have to then, before they can have their next advance, they have to justify that they spent their entire first advance the way that their grant contract said they were going to spend it, and show the accounting of that. So that's the kind of the two groups we've dealt with. Either we have someone who is has an operating budget that they can advance themselves the grant money and then be reimbursed. But the majority of our grantees, I think, in our first round were grassroots, and they weren't able to do that. So what the contract had stipulated is that that advancing process where they would break their project down into most likely 4 payments, and in order to receive their next payment, they would have to be audited in compliance with their first disbursement.
I know you said grassroots, but what's grassroots to you? If you're thinking about making larger grants, because grassroots to us is pretty small, but what is it to the council? For the police committee?
I mean, I usually think of grassroots as being sort of like more community-based organizations, maybe organizations that may not have like a huge operating budget. But you know, I think ideally we would like to shy away from, you know, organizations that are pretty, not say we don't want established organizations, but I think part of the goal of the grants in the charter is to help people that are really active in their communities to be able to program in their community. So, man, it's like not the clearest of answers, but you know, we're really like there are some organizations we could help start up. There are some organizations we could help to maybe expand a program. So maybe there'll be a smaller organization and they're looking to expand. So I mean, I think there's some flexibility with it, but the bigger idea is that they would be community-based organizations and not so much pretty well-established group. But we don't shy those away either. If the program is good, it's going to benefit the community.
Okay, that's good.
Do you happen to have a list or publish someplace the organizations that you did fund last year and their projects or programs? Just so that we have an understanding of who you were looking for, what may have been some of the requirements for them to apply.
Yes, and I can, I'll pull up the exact web address right now. If you
Okay.
go to our website, it's clecpc.org. And then it is under, let's see here. I think it's under our budget and grants. I thought it was a main drop down, but let's see here. Yeah, if you go to our budget and grants committee, I think that's where it is. I'm going to find you the exact
Okay.
pathway to it here.
Oh, right here, budget and grant.
Yeah, I know it's here.
Is there a grant thing on about us?
What's that?
Is there a grant thing on about us?
Budget and grant.
Oh, if you click on the drop down.
Yeah. No, I'll find it in a moment. You know, I've looked at it a million times here, and I just
Either way, it's in the minutes from that one meeting.
yeah, but there's a whole page on the grants here. I'm not sure why it's not. Oh, it's probably under maybe under resources here. Yeah, I will post that on the FAQ page here
Okay.
as soon as I find it. So feel free to move on to your next question while I look here.
I was kind of concerned about the advancement piece because that could be a bear to manage sometimes. So we will be the ones who will be handling that. So say, for example, the grantee what would need some money to start the program and they would ask to advance that, or are they getting the allocation at one time in the beginning?
Yeah, so I don't think you would need to advance anything out of your funding. So first criteria is they would have to be under contract. So we don't give any money until the contract is signed, and the contract dictates the terms of the advancements individually for the organization that asked for it. The only thing that I can think of is that you may be involved in the vetting of an organization if they say we don't have an operating budget to be able to be advanced, right? If you guys are the
Mhm.
ones, handling the vetting of these organizations, and the accounting management of these organizations, they would be most likely submitting their hardship request through you, and I would imagine that you guys would be verifying that, yes, that in fact is true, that this organization cannot fund itself or advance itself the money needed to be on the reimbursement. But we found the majority of these grassroots organizations and smaller community organizations just are, a lot of the accounts are the personal accounts of the person who is listed as the CEO or whatever of the 501, right?
Mhm.
So they tend to be very small operations that you're going to get the majority of applicants from is these, nonprofits that are just getting started. Oh, you
I
found it?
just emailed it to you too.
I don't know why it didn't come up under mine. Okay, so it is under the resources. Okay. So going back to that other question, if you go under resources, I looked
Mhm.
right at it. I just didn't see it. There is a drop-down tab that says community grants.
Under
So if you're at our main webpage,
Yep. Mhm.
and then you click on the community
Community.
grants, um, it will
Mhm.
take you to the list there. It talks about the previous program and
Mhm.
it shows
Perfect.
this is normally where we run our applications from
Mhm.
when they're open. So we will be able to, um, in the proposal, if you want to talk about how joint promotions of the grant program, right? We do have the ability to promote it on our website, et cetera. That's how we ran it last time.
Mhm.
So
You accepted that.
And there's a link
if you scroll
actually
to the
on that.
bottom,
Yeah, that has
yeah,
the list of
awarded
funded
grants.
projects. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's at the
perfect.
very bottom of that page.
Mhm.
Okay. I'll look at it. And all the organizations are from Cuyahoga County, you're just dealing with Cuyahoga County, correct?
Uh, so say that one more time.
Are all the organizations going to be coming from Cuyahoga County?
Well, specifically, they were local to the city of Cleveland. That was
Mhm.
one of the things that was in the contract, right, Martin? Was they had to have a headquarters in Cleveland or a local office in the city of Cleveland.
Okay,
So some of them did work outside the city of Cleveland, but they must have,
but the headquarters is in Cleveland.
right, they have to be vested in the city of Cleveland, and these grant funds are designed to be utilized directly to the citizens of Cleveland benefiting from this funding.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you were an example, just to clarify on that, it's not to say like a national violence prevention organization couldn't apply, but they would have to
Mhm.
have a local branch operating in Cleveland with a business address in Cleveland.
Okay.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And the criteria for the grants, is that still the same, or at least the types of grants, or is that where you're looking for this organization who's going to be responsible for the grant making to come up with that?
No, it has to follow the charter 115.5. So the goal is to reduce the dependency on police, right? I'm paraphrasing that, and then
Mhm.
there's three categories. There's restorative justice, violence prevention, and
Mhm.
what's the
Mediation.
and mediation.
Mhm.
Yes, so it
Mhm.
has to be centered or grounded around one of those, all of those
Three.
things, or one of those things. So the charter, it doesn't say that we can't hone it down to one of those things at our
Mhm.
discretion. Some of our grantees hit multiple things on that list. out of those
Mhm.
3 last year. Some of them were very specific to only one of those things. But it also has to tie back to a methodology that they believe will reduce the dependency on the Cleveland Division of Police through these services.
Okay.
That's all of the questions that I have. Celeste, did you have any more?
No, those are mine. I was concerned about the advancements and things like that.
Mhm.
I had a question about reporting. Would we then be creating the actual report, or are we following something that the city already uses?
That's a good question.
So we don't have a methodology for the reporting. So the grantees have to do reports, right?
Mhm.
You know, in your proposal, if you were to say we will, you know, summarize reports and provide a master report, that's up to you how you tailor your proposal and your ideas for, you know, reporting on how the city benefits from these tax dollars.
Mhm.
So we will do that. Okay. Those are pretty much my questions.
Mhm.
John, do you want to talk a little bit about like the timeline and Pete about the timeline or like the grant cycle that we're envisioning? Like what is the general
Oh, that's
time
good.
frame for like 2023 grants and the 2024? Like what's the ideal cycle?
We have to go in some ways by the city has where we can spend money. So I think we had to have them all the money secured sometime. So I think it was before Christmas. So
Right.
I think like before we went on Christmas break. I mean,
Yeah, so the goal,
Wouldn't that even-
yeah, the goal would be to get 2024's funding, which is around $1.2 million. You know, and that would be inclusive of whatever in that 1.2 would be included any costs of this grant of the awardee, you know, running the program. So the goal would be we would have to get those graded, evaluated, and what the funds encumbered by a commission vote. Ideally, that would happen in November. We would have a vote by this commission to say these are the grantees that we agree to, and then that gives us the ability to encumber that funding for the year before it closes. That's how we did it last year. Martin, do you want?
Yeah, I would say that even trying to bring that timeline a little bit back as much as possible as we work through these cycles would be in our best interest because the city does go through a financial shutdown for like pretty much the end of November and December until
yeah.
January. So what you're saying in terms of having the funds encumbered through awards, you know, the earlier we can roll that back is the best,
Yeah.
the better. And we can maybe start thinking about syncing that with contract time of performances, right? So if somebody has an annual TOP, we can start making these grantees if we want to encourage reoccurring grantees to have annual TOPs that end on certain time of performance for a contract. So instead of it being a contract that's open forever and just exists until they're done, usually we'll say, hey, a TOP of 1 year seems sufficient for this annual operating program.
And most of the programs were 1 year based. I'll be honest with you, the reason that they're a little behind is because we've never done this before, so contracting became logistically challenging, but we believe we can do that a lot faster and more and better this coming year. So Martin got hired mid-year in this, and he's been managing these contracts, and he already has the process ideas to how to streamline this in a much more efficient way. Part of it is the grantees turning in their documentation. So, you know, being honest about that, we'll work with you on what is required in the grant application. You know, all you need to do is say, this is how we will manage the application process. What's required is we'll let you know. And part of that is we're going to ask for all the documents like you would be going into contract ahead of time. If you get the award, those documents will be done instead of waiting for grantees to know that they got the award to start filling out the documents. So we'll make all that documenting as part of the grantee application package so that they can fast track their award if they are selected. So it's just a little extra work on their part, and they may not get selected, but on our part, it'll save a lot of back and forth after we write the award letter. and we can move the contract much, much faster. So,
Maybe the only exception would be if we did do the grants over $50,000, and that is a process that probably would have to come a little bit sooner because it has to go to council for approval. And I think it has to go through the committee, and then it has to go to full council for a vote. So anything over 50,000 kind of has to operate on a different timeline because it requires the additional steps with council.
so November would be, when I said November, it would be early November. So like November 1st would be the goal to have the awardees selected. And to Co-Chair Adams' point, if we're doing a program that has over $50,000 as a possibility, we would need probably, so I would say at least September, to know that we would have that, which isn't much time. So that always adds a little bit of a logistical challenge if we do large awards.
And that's part of the reason why we didn't do anything over 50,000 last year. We just simply didn't have the time to get it through the committee on city council and then get it through the full council because they were pretty much shutting down the holiday season. So we were limited.
I think with the option for renewal that we envision for this, this is it's still going to be, it's going to be a lot of learning and work to get it done. But then next year we can hopefully do things much more quickly with the entity that gets this contract. That we'll have the 1 year, you have the 1 year of your work, and for us 2 years, and then we can hit the ground running next year and move those timelines up and start to see how we do that.
And so conceivably, what this would look like is logistically, it would be a little hectic this year because we would be awarding, the winner of this proposal and getting under contract, and then we would jump as quick as possible into this year's grantee process, right? So as soon as the ink is drying on the award for this, we would try to get out 2024's funding as quickly and efficiently as possible. If the relationship goes well, the commission has the option to renew for 2025. I would like to believe that most likely that will happen. And if so, what we would do is be turning around and starting this program again early in the springtime of 2025, which would give us a lot more breathing room than we had in 2024. So 2024 will be fast and furious for us to get these done. 2025, whoever the partner is, we'll reevaluate our lessons learned there, and we'll during the downtime between, not necessarily downtime, but during the cycle downtime, once we close 2024, we will have several months to plan for the opening in early spring of 2025 to really get this done in a little bit slower pace, more relaxed and controlled way.
Okay.
So if you're saying, having the awardees elected November 1st, and you're saying that council kind of shuts down until January, when will we get the money to the grantees? Would it be in January then?
It would be most likely it'll be as soon as we open up in January. They'll start, if everything goes well and the contracts are efficient, that lead time between when we close in November will be to get the contract signed and executed. And then most likely, once the accounting opens up again, it's usually like the 8th of January, the 10th of January, we'll be able to start cutting checks.
But that's only if they have their contracts.
But they have to be executed contracts, so yes.
And that takes time.
All right. I think that's it. Celeste, is that it for you?
Yes, that's all the questions I have.
Okay. And actually, honestly, I do have one other question. So I saw on the website that the proposal closes on the 20th, but it says on the 17th on the proposal.
Let me
Was it-
double check. There's actually two RFQs on the website, so you have to scroll down to the
Oh, I
first one.
see.
So
Okay.
there's actually another project that we have out for bid too, so they're scrolling down.
Oh,
So
okay,
if you look at that, it's a different
different
RFQ.
proposal.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So if you
Alright.
scroll down, the one that we're talking about today is the older one on that list.
Got it. Appreciate that. Okay. Wanted to confirm and clarify. Yep, so then that most certainly is it for me.
Me too as well. Thank you, no question.
All right.
Great.
Well, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing your submittals, and we'll be, if you submit, we'll be in touch once it's submitted, and we'll talk again. Feel free to email me with additional questions that come up with. I'm
Okay.
J Goodrick with a K on the end, so GOODRICK at City of Cleveland.
ClevelandOhio.gov.
Cleveland, I'm sorry, they changed it. ClevelandOhio.gov is our
Okay.
new ending email exchange. So J Goodrick at ClevelandOhio.gov.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you for your
All right.
time.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.